Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from Your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we'll be discussing a collection of heroes that can work well if you often queue on your own in competitive. First, let's make some basic assumptions. 1, you have a good grasp of these characters' mechanical requirements, and 2, you know when to do what with the character and have game sense. I'll be putting some basic things to watch out for each hero, as playing to maximize your individual impact and playing selfishly are often divided by a very thin line. Ana. Well, Ana is everywhere on the channel at the moment. If you haven't seen the first part of Frido's Ana guide videos from yesterday, I suggest you go and do that now. So let's get started. To be a great character for solo queue, one of the characteristics required is dexterity in their role or potential value, what impact the hero can have if played at the highest level. Ana kind of sums this up. She's capable of doing a lot of damage and doing a lot of healing, her zoomed shot is hit scan, and she has one of the best counters to a very prominent defensive ult, Zenyatta's Transcendence. She's a more practical sniper than Widow and just offers so much more potential impact. Her ultimate is very strong too if used on the right target, often contributing to a big swing in momentum on a capture point, king of the hill or payload. So what's the downside? Well, all those great bonuses come at a high mechanical cost. She's one of the hardest characters to play in the entire game. Her sleep dart is incredible but not always straightforward to hit, and can be easily disrupted by accident. But even harder is the game knowledge and judgment required to maximize her. When to heal, when to do damage, who to nano boost, and when to zoom or hipfire. All of these challenges make her difficult and require someone who does not tunnel vision mid-game. You have to have a wide awareness of the bigger game as it unfolds, and constantly have to be making the right decisions. She's very unforgiving but has huge potential, so if you're on the level where you feel confident that you can handle that amount of responsibility, then she can be a fantastic character to play when solo queuing. Soldier. Okay, now let's talk about a very reliable damage option, Soldier 76. One of the hardest things to synergize effectively in solo queue is the symbiotic relationship between support and DPS. DPS as a general rule have small health pools, so how effectively your support can keep you alive can decide an entire match. So Soldier, who has excellent self-sustain, is a good option when either your heals prove to be absent, or as is quite common in solo queue, your team elects to solo heal. His damage is very reliable as well and not as mechanically demanding as some others. He can burst effectively with Helix rockets if you're a good shot with them, and is hit scanned so he can do well against characters like Pharah. One thing that's important to think about when selecting a hero in solo queue is uptime, the amount of actual time you can evade death and continue having an impact on the game. With that in mind, I think people underestimate Soldier's sprint ability. McCree may be a better DPS overall, but he doesn't have the evade options, so requires more support to stay alive. Soldier does not, and because of that, he might make a better choice for when you don't know how your supports will perform. His ultimate can be useful when comboed or when you get the right opportunity. All in all, he's an exceptionally well-rounded character. So what should you be wary of? Well, he's one of the easiest characters to accidentally bait with. It's easy to use his tools to remain never committed to something you really needed to commit to. His damage, although reliable, can amount to absolutely nothing if not finished off, and a bad soldier will tend to shoot the wrong targets too often while defending themselves with the "I have gold medals." He's actually deceptively hard to play because of the game sense required to make the right decisions. But again, if you know what to shoot and when and can stay alive to maximize your impact, he's a great choice. Roadhog. Well Eddie, here's a character that you've caused quite a controversy with recently. Despite my misgivings about people picking Roadhog as a solo tank, he is a good option if your team has selected a more traditional tank hero already. Let's go through his advantages. Firstly, he's an excellent answer to flankers, especially Genji and Tracer. He has excellent self-sustain, making his viable uptime extremely high, and can single out high-value targets, namely a support like a Lucio who is dancing around an objective or a Mercy looking to get a high-impact res. He can absolutely shred an opposing Rhine shield, especially if combined with other damage heroes in focused shield breaking fire. He can also interrupt many devastating ultimates with a well-placed hook. So what do you have to be aware of? Well, playing him, as many people have suggested, wrongly in my opinion, as a bullet sponge can effectively feed the enemy team their ultimates quicker than a Rhine shield, which does not do that. As people also state, that can build your support teammates' ultimates as well. However, if as Roadhog you're occupying your support's value to keep you alive, they are not keeping other more vulnerable teammates alive, namely squishier characters like DPS. As Road, you must self-sustain, and you must be able to get value out of his hook. If you're not, then you're just feeding. If you can do those things, then you don't need to play him in a role that doesn't suit him. He can be a very good choice. Mei. So what a difference a small change to an ultimate can make. It's almost amazing. No. Seriously though, Mei can be a very viable pick if you pick her as an off tank. Now I know that's going to make some of you lose your minds, but hear me out. Mei has excellent self-sustain and uptime by the sheer fact that she's very hard to kill. Her self-heal makes her invulnerable, and I pity anyone who gets into a 1v1 with her within a certain range. It's not a fun time. Her ice walls can be used effectively to split defenses, leaving an enemy isolated and easy to eliminate. Her crowd control is amongst the best in the game. She makes highly mobile characters shake in fear of getting too close to your supports if her Mei is protecting them. Her ultimate is top tier, and you can save a game almost single-handedly, and thanks to her projectile builds it very quickly if you land your shots on bigger targets, like, I don't know, a Roadhog? Her potential impact is massive, but what are the things that you as the player must avoid? Well, firstly, you must get proper value from her walls and ultimates. If you're using her walls to just block off a choke, you're not maximizing them. And if you ult when nobody is in a position to follow up, then you've just wasted a potentially massive advantage. Also, she is very hard to kill, but not impossible. If your positioning isn't great, you can get focused down fairly quickly. If you can avoid all that while maximizing her, she's an excellent choice too. Tracer. The last hero on this list is Tracer, who despite being very fragile, is actually quite easily self-sustained if played correctly. Proper resource management of your abilities is key to sustaining as Tracer, as she is the only flanker who can sustain reliably. Reaper can heal, but he has to get a kill first, Tracer doesn't. She can also make it to health packs much quicker and in a much larger radius than almost anyone else besides Genji. Tracer has one of the best footsie games in all of Overwatch, and if you have the required timing and spacing, you can bait out potential threats like McCree's flashbang and Roadhog's hook, leaving them open to being whiff punished. She's also incredible against discorded targets and a nightmare for unprotected supports, one of the true hallmarks of lower level play. Her close range damage is not to be underestimated if you have the mechanics to hit the majority of your clip into the head, and her pulse bomb can be comboed effectively with most crowd control ultimates. So what are the risks? Well, her fragility can become a problem if your blink timing is off, and just like Soldier, it can be easy to bait your teammates accidentally. Not committing at the right times can leave all her chip damage just that, chip damage that feeds opposition support ultimates. She's hard to play well, but if you can, she's an excellent solo queue pick. Honourable mentions. Here I'd just like to quickly mention a few heroes that are good but not quite as good for solo queue as the ones on this list. Firstly, Reaper. He can be excellent, but baiting can very quickly become an issue, and obviously he has limited range and viability. Secondly is Genji. Sadly Genji has been nerfed. Not so bad that he's useless, but he can't carry anymore. He also can bait a little bit too much, and if not used to dive and harass, loses almost all of his potential value. But again, if you have the mechanics and game sense, they're good in the right situation. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like. If you'd like us to cover anything specific, please don't hesitate to leave it in the comment below. Also, please follow the Your Overwatch Twitter. It's the best way to get updates about when we're streaming or when we're posting videos. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time!